In this week's episode of Renovate Ed, Barb Bade, a real estate agent with United Real Estate in Indianapolis, shares her experience working with first-time home buyers during the heart of the pandemic, what persuaded her to give renovation lending a try, and how it helped her find homes for families that would not have been able to afford homes otherwise. Hear firsthand from a seasoned real estate agent how renovation loans help families reach their goal of home ownership. This interview took place in the fall of 2022, and Barb has been a big proponent of leveraging renovation financing since. Let's get renovated.
I have not done a lot of renovation loans in the past, and I probably can speak for a lot of agents. I didn't know where to begin, and I didn't know how much I had to be involved, and that worried me. I didn't know how do I structure the amount of the renovation with the purchase price, with all of that, And so it was a little, overwhelming to me. And Jen took all of that away. Basically, it was the best. It was so good because I didn't really have to do anything. She just took it and ran with it. And if my clients had any, additional questions about the renovation part, I would just direct them to her because she had all the answers. I think the toughest problem is not with Diamond or with Jen. It's with trying to find contractors, who are going to follow through and on a timely basis, and of course, we did these two loans, or the two renovation loans that I have done, have both been in the height of that market before it is becoming more of a normal market. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of contractors, I think, not just ones we were trying to use, a lot of people were having trouble getting contractors, and maybe that will be resolved now that things are starting to get back to normal. I don't know on the contractor end if that's true, if they're starting to get back to normal, but I kind of maybe think so. So
that's great.
I think that would be good, because I know that Jen was about ready to pull her hair out with some our contractor.
Yeah. No, that's really great. I guess can you talk about, from like your perspective, right, in your industry, how is it a rare thing to have like a lender that you feel like you can really trust to be able to direct your clients to? I mean, is that how you typically would work? Or I mean, is there something special about the work that Jen does to be able that you feel?
Well, I mean, I have a handful of lender partners that I go to, mm-hmm. that I trust. And I started using Jen when she offered the rehab loan, mm-hmm. because it's not an FHA loan, which that's good. It's my people put 3% down on a conventional loan, and we were still able to do this renovation side. So it was awesome. I might speak a little bit about my clients.
Yeah, please.
They were first-time home buyers. Both of these were first-time home buyers. And one of them, I showed them 22 houses. And we made several offers. And of course, we kept getting beat out because other agents were coming to the table, other clients were coming to the table saying, we're going to, bring so much in gap money, in the appraisal gap money. Well, my people didn't have that. They didn't have mm-hmm. extra money. They had just what they needed for down payment, and closing costs. They didn't have anything extra. And so this was an answer, because this house that we found is very close to a historical district. And I think that as our market, starts moving, some of the rehab is being done here in this area where they bought. So they're going to be in a really good position. And so it was the thing that, they wouldn't have been able to find anything had it not been for this rehab loan. Nobody else offered on that house. We were the only offer.
It helps you from not getting outbid when you're the only offer.
Yeah, I mean, that was a plus. Plus, I think we bid, I can't remember now. We either bid at the purchase price or just a little bit lower than the purchase price. And then they did the rehab, and my buyers actually moved into that house already having 18% equity.
Wow.
So after the appraisal was done, they had 18% equity.
That's incredible.
Yeah. The other client, again, was a first-time home buyer. We were having trouble finding anything. I didn't show them as many homes because I have a business partner, and she had a house coming on the market that would be perfect for my client, but it needed a little work. So we got them together. We put the deal together before it even went on the market. And then, we put it on the market, of course, and it didn't need as an extensive rehab as the other one did.
Mm-hmm.
But all of my buyers were so happy.
It's so great. Man, that's incredible. I really love how it seems like these loans really do help first-time home buyers, especially ones that maybe be getting a little bit discouraged at the current market. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you have 2 first-time home buyers that have used it. Do you think that renovation loans are a program that a lot of first-time home buyers should look at as an option?
I do. I definitely do. A lot of the times they go in with high expectations, and at their price point, they're not getting those expectations met. So this way, they can go in, they can pick out new flooring, cabinets. On this one property, they gutted the bathroom and did a whole new bathroom. It was beautiful. Mm. They did new windows. So they did some cosmetic things as well as some inspection things on this particular buyer. So that's a help too.
Real estate agents, are you working with buyers struggling to find a move-in ready home in their price range? Don't let them give up. Instead, show them the potential in homes that need a little work. With a renovation mortgage, they can finance both the purchase price and the cost of renovations, all in one loan. It's a smart way to expand their options and help you close more deals. Want to learn how? Visit therenogal.com or call 844-RENOGAL today.
If they can roll in some inspection items, that might make the seller more likely to, use or pick them as their buyers if they know ahead of time that this is a renovation loan and we can actually put that into our loan package. Well, and let me back up on this house. It was an old house and they still had some knob and tube.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, and the house was being sold as is.
Oh,
so
wow.
You already knew that, the seller wasn't going to do anything. It was an investor and he wasn't going to do anything. And I think we still have that. I've seen a lot of houses that are going on as is. They're telling you up front it's as is. So this would be a great program for that.
Yeah, that's incredible. One other thing I had a point to make sure to talk to you about. Sometimes we get questions in the renovation program, people that have a little bit of a pushback against like the things happening in 60 days. There's people that want things to move a little bit faster. Did you notice that was any sort of an impediment? How did the speed of this transaction sort of work out, with other ones that you may have?
Are you talking about the closing?
Yeah, the closing.
Okay. Yes. I think actually this one was done in 45 days. And so, that it wasn't a problem. It might be a problem with some sellers because they're in a hurry, but this particular one, he was an investor. So, he wasn't in any hurry. The other one, they did purchase a house and somehow it just all worked out where they got to move. And my people did not have to move out right away of where they were renting. So it all worked out. And no, I haven't had much of a pushback. It just, again, would depend on, how fast the seller needs to move.
Yeah. And, sometimes you can assume that distressed properties, things that may be sitting on the market a little bit longer anyway, may have had some price decreases. They're thrilled to have the offer. They're not necessarily too picky, which is
And then,
really great.
As to how long the renovation takes, that kind of depends on how much needs to be done. And that has nothing to do with diamond. So if it is, or gin, if it's delayed, that's the fault of either the contractor, or the other problem we ran into was the city of Indianapolis.
Oh, really?
To get them to come back out and do their reinspection, because you have to pull the permits and everything. So, I think we're still waiting for that.
Oh, wow.
They have been super slow since COVID at getting somebody out to do the reinspection, to sign off on it. And so our contractor, they had to hold back a little bit and not pay him until it's signed off on. So that, but that's not your problem. That's not Jen's problem, but that's just something that you come up against a little bit. Maybe not in every city or state, but it was here.
Yeah. But it is nice to know that you have a team here that's sort of handling the draws, making sure that everything's going well, and
and
doing that.
To get involved in any of that.
Have you had bad experiences with renovation loans working with somebody else outside of Jen or Diamond before?
Honestly, I've been doing this 16 years and I've only done one other renovation loan, and it was an FHA, that 403k, or what is that called?
The 203?
203k.
Yeah.
And it went okay. But what I like about this is you have an option not to use FHA, because FHA limits you on how much you can spend, on several things. So this was, I think, a smoother transaction than that was, although it wasn't bad, because the guy that did that, I think he'd been doing it a long time too, but he doesn't do anything but the 203k. So
yeah.
And I like the conventional better.
Yeah. And it's nice to have both of the options too, depending on what the buyer actually needs, to have that.
You do the 203k as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we do have that. So from your perspective, you said you've been doing this for a while and you've only done a handful of these. Is it because you weren't aware of what could be done? Was it because sort of horror stories throughout the industry that can, don't worry about working with contractors? Was it not quite buyer property fit? What was it that sort of didn't have you doing them before?
Well, I think the one thing is it was myself. I was afraid. I didn't understand it. I thought, I don't know I don't know the steps. I don't want to get them in something because I did something wrong. I don't know. It was more me.
Yeah.
And then probably there's a lot of people, when you mention renovation loans, they want to do the work themselves. And that's not always a great idea, but trying to convince them of that, because they can't do it themselves on this program. Now, you could hold things back. Like, for example, my people painted their kitchen cabinets. That was not in the renovation part. They did that themselves. And they did it after closing and all of that. They went in and they did that. So, there's some things you could hold out and do yourself. But the big things that are important, you need to have a contractor do those.
Yeah.
And you need to pull the permits.
Yeah, definitely. Would you say that this is going to be something that is going to be in your head thinking moving forward of how you can be able to use this for your clients? Yeah,
definitely. Yes.
That's great. That's awesome. That's the most encouraging thing to be able to hear, is that it's going that direction. And I don't know, just even in that presentation that we had yesterday, just thinking of all the ways that this could be used, the benefits for agents, the benefits for buyers, the opportunity that you have. And then, selfishly, I think about the marketing opportunities and the storytelling there. Everybody imagines themselves in an HD TV show, and you get a chance to live it and then live in the house afterwards. That's pretty cool.
I was thinking the time in 2020 and 2021 and into 2022, the beginning part before the market started to level, that it was a really good time to use a renovation loan. But actually, I think now going forward, it's going to be good too, because prices are not going to be so high. And we've seen more price reductions that we never saw in those other 2 years. You know, you never saw price reductions. So we're seeing that. So because we're seeing that, I just had a house listed and, you know, they offered $15,000 under the list price and my sellers took it. So I think that in that situation, that's good because, you know, now the buyer can buy homes a little cheaper and maybe have a little bit more room for that renovation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's exciting to be part of that team that can help them be able to do that. And I really like these too, because it really does feel like, because of the things that you need to be able to do, and the fact that you have multiple parties that are involved, from the lender, from the agent, from the contractor, it really does feel like there's a whole team behind the client, and they have like this group of people working towards them to accomplish this goal, rather than like separate parts that kind of all do their own thing.
Definitely. When my clients would call me with questions and I would try to get involved, Jen would just say, just let me do it. just forward them to call to me, you know, rather than ask you. And I thought, okay.
Yeah. Thank
I
you.
like
Music
that.
to my ears.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. And if you need anything, you know, much like Jen, don't hesitate to reach out. All right.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Barb.
Bye.
Now, the legalese required to appease attorneys, compliance officers, and regulators. This podcast is hosted by Jennifer Goldsby, NMLS number 591226, Vice President, Renovation Lending. The topics discussed herein reflect my personal opinion. They do not represent the opinions of Diamond Residential Mortgage Corporation and its management. Discussions about loan programs in this podcast are not a commitment to make a loan. Programs, approvals, rates, fees, and loan terms are subject to loan applications, credit risk, appraisal evaluation, underwriting guidelines, and other lending or qualification criteria and limitations, and are subject to change without notice. Not all products are available in all states. Not all borrowers will qualify. Diamond Residential Mortgage Corporation, 582 Oakwood Avenue, Lake Forest, Illinois, 60045 847 244 9301. NMLS number 186805. For licensing information, go to nmlsconsumerAccess.org/entity-details.aspx/company/186805. Equal housing opportunity. Diamond Residential Mortgage Corporation is not affiliated with or acting on behalf of or at the direction of FHA, VA, USDA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or any governmental body or agency.